Alright, I want to go first.
Alright,
I'm excited.
Do you need 100 instead of 1?
No.
Okay.
No. Oh yeah, I look like I'm like ready to tear into this game.
Yeah, because you're like, all right, let's go.
No.
I've only gotten a little bit past chapter 3, and let me tell you, the problems with this game. No.
Yeah.
No, my one and only qualm that I can really think of that really stood out to me is I don't like the Divine Beast levels. I don't like them at all.
Oh,
and
really?
I thought that they were really boring. Like, they're just like, they're so cut and dry. There's not really a lot going on to them. Like, I get that they're really necessary. I get that. But at the end of the day, like, when I've like, because I've like replayed the beginning a couple of times now, when I go through and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go get this champion. Oh wait, but this champion I have to do the. Yes, Jesse.
When you say the Divine Beasts level, do you mean like when you're in the Divine Beasts, or when you're like flying around as the Divine Beast?
Controlling.
When you are the Divine Beast.
Okay.
When you're controlling it. Yeah, it wasn't for me. I felt like it was very linear, and that kind of bothered me. Like, really, the only one that stood out that it was kind of fun was like when you get to be, I forgot the name of him, 𝐓𝐼𝐬𝐢𝐳, the one when you're piloting for him, and that's just that's my probably very unpopular opinion.
It's gotten to a weird point where we've had Sean and Joe on so much, or like I'll just randomly talk to him on Twitter or whatever. It's got to a weird point to whenever I think about Rivali, I'll just say Sean instead of Rivali, or if it's Joe, then I'll say that. Like a few weeks ago, they released the Champions amiibo again, and I got one from Drew because we had just had him on like the day or two before, and I was showing it to my little brother, and I was like, yeah, look at this amiibo of Joe. And he's like, who? And I'm like, oh, yeah. But I will say, everyone thinks you're saving Hyrule when like you're playing this game, and that like it's not going to end up as horrible as it looks with everything destroyed like in Breath of the Wild. But you do so much damage to the world when you're piloting those Divine Beasts. Like, they should have not waited until the last minute and then decide, hey, maybe we should go and like test pilot these things and kill some tiny bokoblins. So like that huge hole that's in the mountain.
Holes in the mountainsides and stuff.
Yeah, like Breath of the Wild, there's like the one mountain that has a giant chunk taken out of it, and it's like, that probably wasn't Ganon. That was probably Daruk or someone who had no idea what he was doing in the cockpit of the Divine Beast.
All right. First, a shout out to Luke in the chat here who says Link is the only one you can main. We're all jumping on him. Impa is more OP than Link by and large if you use her correctly.
The frog.
You can build up her. You can build up her special attack gauge in like 5 seconds if you have all your clones, and it's ridiculous.
Fast.
And then if you have one built up and you don't have any clones, you hit ZR 3 times, bam, 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 generate 3 symbols, use your special attack gauge, boom, you have 3 clones, and then you build up your special attack gauge really quickly again and just destroy everybody in your path. She is redonkulously super powerful if you use her correctly. Not just Link, although Link is good.
What was it someone in the
Plenty
chat
of the
asked
characters are
her to say last week?
Sorry?
What was it that someone in the chat last week asked the voice actor when we had her on, asked her to say one of the quotes?
Oh, the line, "Steal yourself, I am ready." That was her line.
So what does that,
She
what does that
it.
mean?
I was gonna say, are they allowed to do that? Because that's owned by Nintendo.
I wasn't sure. I asked her first. I was like, if you're not allowed to say it, it's okay. But she was like, no, it's fine. And she said the line. But I mean, like someone. I wrote in one of the comments on a video that line, "Steal yourself. She is ready," just as a joke because she was in that video. And someone corrected me. They said "steal," STEAL, and I had to be like, first of all, guys, like not to be mean, but don't correct someone without double checking that you're right first, because it's not steal yourself like I'm literally performing theft on myself. No. Steal yourself, STEEL, means like to brace yourself, to be ready. Weirdly she's saying get ready, I am ready, but that's That's what it means. But apparently,
Oh,
people were.
Birdman
There
in
was
the
a lot
chat.
of
He
comments
said he
and
was
stuff
the person
saying they
that
were
asked.
confused about it. Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a lot of people confused about it. They're like, was she saying kill yourself? She's saying, steer yourself, things like that. And it's like, still, even well, my son, he's 8. That's his excuse. But he was like, what does that mean? So, but he is a literal child, so that's fine. But
Hey, you know what? I'm gonna go out on
yes.
a limb here and go, you guys have severely educated me today, because I did not look it up. I was
Oh,
like,
there
I
you
don't know
go.
what that means, but alright, she's saying it.
there you go. So deal
Maybe
yourself.
she's speaking in frog.
She's speaking frog for sure.
Coming out as our resident
But
uninformed.
off topic. My actual thing that I was gonna say
Yeah,
about
so Daniel, tell us more about how you don't like Impa.
I love her so much. I love her so much. Downside to this game, legit though.
Not
this
enough
is,
Impa.
This is never an issue I had with Hyrule Warriors. This is the only thing where I think I preferred how it was in Hyrule Warriors, OG Hyrule Warriors versus Age of Calamity. Is I actually, maybe this is just a byproduct of the fact that I've been playing it on very hard mode, and it's very hard. But I've actually had to grind, and I hate grinding in video games. I despise grinding in video games so much because it's just like padding it out. It's just like, oh, just replay the same part 10 times before you can get through the next part. If I've already achieved that, there should be a more natural curve of progression. Again, it's probably because I'm playing on very hard mode and it's very hard. But
Yeah.
there's times where I've had to I'm like, I can't get through. There's one of the last side challenges called the Siege of Fort Hitano. And it's not one of the story missions, but I literally 3 days straight was just trying to beat that mission. Could not. And I kept having to go play other missions and either try and level up or use a meal to get like bonus rupees and just use the training camp to like power level up my characters. But I still have to grind for the money then. And so it's like my way of grinding or trying to avoid grinding. I still have to grind for that. And it's just, I felt like there's way more grinding in this, even though there's less content overall and more content that I actually wanted to do in this game. I got so frustrated grinding for just that one challenge mission. That's all. I love the game otherwise, don't get me wrong, but I hate grinding in video games just in general so much. So that's my thing, guys. I'm done talking now. Take it away, someone else.
No, so talking about grinding,
Oh, wow.
I liked that the leveling up and everything was a lot different than it was in Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild had the type of leveling up in enemies that I don't like in a lot of games, but it didn't do it as bad as other games did. Like, if you ever played through Darksiders, which is kind of like a Zelda-like game, you level up in that game and you get weapons and stuff the higher levels you go and stuff. But the rubber banding for the enemies is so horrible that you'll go into a dungeon and like if you're at level 30 and the enemies in there are like 28, usually you'd be like, oh, I did good. Like I'm ahead of what I'm supposed to be. Like that's whatever. Or if you get to a dungeon and then you're level 30, but they're like 32 or 33, you're like, oh, well, I need to, grind a little bit or make sure that I don't skip any enemies so I can continue leveling up. That way you can beat them easier. But in that game, in Darksiders, it's like you could be at level 10, 20, 30, 40, doesn't matter. Whatever level you make it to, the enemies are always going to be whether like 1 or 2 levels below you or 1 or 2 levels ahead of you. So it makes you sort of feel like you're leveling up and you're just naturally coming across these enemies that are around the level that you're supposed to be at. But really, it's like no matter what level you are, leveling up just has absolutely no purpose except getting you new weapons, because like you can go back to an old area and the enemies there will just, instead of like level 10 enemies, they'll just be at your level no matter what you do. And I feel
think
like
they have to do it that way in Breath though, because in Breath of the Wild you're going to be probably backtracking on. There's no like clear linear path, right? So they have to kind of raise the enemy level around the entire map all at once when you kind of have that level. By the way, there's a really great video by Croton, if anyone knows his channel, about how the secret sort of leveling up system in Breath of the Wild works, because you never see, there's no gauge on leveling up. But his channel is like really
variables.
Great. Yeah, but he does really great videos on all of those kind of weird systems that Breath of the Wild has. But I feel like that's something that I thought worked well in Breath of the Wild, actually, because as you kind of go through and you get stronger weapons, the enemies get stronger too. And I always have an excess, a surplus of weapons. I'm always having to abandon them or just throw them at a Boko to break it so I can pick up the next one. But in my opinion, actually, I feel like Breath of the Wild's enemies could have, for the most part, leveled up better rather than less. But I don't know. That's something I thought actually worked well in
Give
Breath,
them an
at least.
XP boost.
Yeah.
It even goes as far as tying it into the types of weapons that spawn in chests based off of how many enemies you've killed through this invisible counter. It's crazy. I've seen a write-up on it on Reddit before the videos were made on it and stuff, and it was pretty interesting. I think Croton's calculations on it are more accurate.
No, he does
Most
really
definitely.
good videos. Just so shout out to that guy. But
Big time.
his videos, his analytical Breath
Can
of the
you
Wild
imagine
systems video.
how much work you'd have to do? Because you're finding a hidden algorithm from a game
Yeah.
that has it
Yeah.
hidden deep inside, not the game that you play, but just like the raw data of the game.
Yeah. The amount of research and verification and stuff like that he does for his videos is off the hook, but very appreciated. I love watching those videos. Especially there's some good myth busting and ones he's got, and talking about like how
Myth-busting's the
elemental
best.
damage actually works and stuff. Oh yeah, we love our myth busting on this channel. So
Did you see the
Yes.
link I posted in
that
Chupe's
was-
chat earlier?
We busting a
Chupe's
myth?
chat.
It was a link from like The Gamer, one of those horrible websites where they're like
Oh no.
five
Oh no.
five Zelda mysteries
Hate it
that
already.
took forever to figure out, and then 5 that never did. And like the first one on the list that supposedly took forever for fans to find out was that the Zora turned into Rito. And I'm like, that's not even a mystery. Like as you play the game tells you. Like,
Yeah.
but
No,
anyways,
there's
That's all
several
the
interviews. I mean, like,
yeah. So like that's not something that took
Yeah,
years
those-
for fans. It's just, anyways. But
I would wager the guy who wrote that article played the game like when it first came out, and then just has some weird memories about it. And then later he like read somewhere on Twitter about it, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, someone only just now figured it out, guy." I didn't write an article about this.
or they're confused with the fact that there's Rito and Zora in Breath of the Wild. I don't know, maybe.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe they're just
I get that.
now, doesn't the carvings on the wall going to Zoros Domain? Isn't there a side quest where you have to go and like read all of those?
Yep.
Doesn't that
Right.
tell you
There's
the
no mention of
history?
Rito in it, but
Yeah, it's about the Zora, but doesn't it say that like basically the Zora that are living there now aren't the natural Zora from Hyrule? Like they came from.
what it says.
It's
is
very
that they
vague.
moved That Zora, yeah, it's really vague. Just that the Zora's domain there is not where they used to live,
Yeah.
and that they built that Zora's domain at some point through their history, so after, like, post Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, etc. But it doesn't say much more than that. It doesn't say really where they came from or anything. So, I mean,
And then-
it's yeah.
One more.
It could just be
quick
that they
thing.
had it built into a different place, like in Ocarina of Time it's in a cave, right? And here it's like in an open area. So it could have been that they moved from some dank cave and they're like, you know what? We need some nice digs now. It's time for some
Yeah.
extreme home makeover.
I know one of them specifically mentions Rudo, so that too.
Exactly, yeah. But again, only very vaguely, just that she
Mhm.
existed and then was a sage.
So, if
Where are we
anyone,
with our top 5 things we don't like? Did we not?
I think we
get
did-
our
we did
Destiny,
two.
And
Two
then we didn't
things.
get to Rick.
so it's
I'm sorry.
yeah, we did 2. No, you're good. I was the one that kept that extending. Rick, what is your?
Classic us.
Now, see, I was trying to be
Um,
all proper earlier by like not speaking out and interrupting, so I raised my hand, waited for you to stop to let everyone know, but then like that, just one time, and then it got ruined. All right, Rick.
Honestly.
Rick, take us away, please.
This isn't necessarily a flaw of the game itself, because I think if it was running on a different console, it'd be perfectly fine. But the frame rate is trash. Okay.
Yeah.
Especially if you're playing as characters like Rivali. Anybody that's putting a lot of objects on the screen, if you use any of the elemental rods, the bow, things like that, you get too much on the screen, obviously it's going to make this puppy, really come to a halt. But I'm excited to see on the back end of that, I'm excited to see the next iteration of the Switch running Age of Calamity and see how much better it performs, because like I said, it's not a fault of the game, it's more of the console itself and the limitations of the Switch. So
Yeah.
Actually,
no,
I will
agree.
say there's very few instances where I've had this happen. I think only maybe once before, but Age of Calamity legit made my Switch crash, and I had to do a whole hard
What
reset
part was
on
it?
I don't remember exactly. I don't think I was doing anything too weird or anything. I think I was just doing a battle, but I remember I was playing as Impa and I had all my clones out, so already that kind of sometimes makes it chug because there's just a lot of action on screen, and I was just fighting, and then at one I heard my Switch just start really chugging, really the fan was going super loud and stuff, and I'm like, and then the game just started freezing, and it almost looked like it was shake on screen a little bit, and I thought it was out of the speakers at first, some glitchy sound, but then the console itself actually started making a buzzing sound, and I was like, okay, and just completely froze. So I had to just hard reset it, and then it was fine, and I beat that mission later that day, and thank God for autosave. But I was legit panic when that happened.
I wonder if that's a console thing, because I actually had a situation where I was playing Stardew Valley on my Switch. Not a very intense game to be playing. I am farming, and the game full crashed. I've never seen anything like it before. So it might be a console thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Might be. I've had very few issues like that with my Switch. I've last gen, for example, or I guess 2 now ago. Oh God, I'm old now. But back in the day, with my Xbox 360, I had to fully replace a 1 point because of red ring and stuff like that, and then even after that, after replacing it, had some weird issues like that, and then I know a few times with my PS4 I've had weird things where I've just had to fully reset it and stuff because of weird glitches and stuff. But Switch, or just Nintendo consoles in general, I've almost never had issues like that before. So it always really catches me off guard when that happens. So
let me ask you this: do both of you guys have day one Switches, or within the first year of the Switch launching?
Mine's the Animal Crossing Switch.
Is my
okay? Is yours
Switch.
Okay? So yours is new. Wow, that's kind of weird.
But here's the
but
thing,
you know what? Actually, I was playing on my
no.
I was playing on my boyfriend's Switch. His is a day one.
Okay, so I mean, it could just be a dust buildup issue. I know that the red ring of death, that was all normally caused either by dust buildup or from overheating, and then the thermal paste also drying out. So I'm sure that's what it is, because mine sounds like it's overheating all the freaking time when I'm playing it, but I still haven't run into that crashing issue yet.
Yeah, my old one was like that. Yeah. Whenever I played Breath of the Wild or anything, the fan was going. It doesn't do that anymore with my new one.
I'm kind of glad that I never did it.
I have mine in a spot where it's at least downstairs, because I've got docks in 3 different rooms in my house. But downstairs, at least my main setup, it's in a spot where it's not prone really to overheating because it's nice and in the open, and right ironically near my fireplace, which is almost like a vacuum for heat. Just the heat just gets sucked out of the fireplace. Ironic. But up here in my office room here, sometimes it gets pretty hot in here, and so I think sometimes this poor little baby can't take it. But yeah, sometimes it's just a loud boy. It's and I'm like, don't you die on me, I love you too much.
Oh boy.
So I used to have
people over here complaining about PS4 Pros.
So I used to have a slight issue with my Switch getting hot. So what I thought about doing, but I'm glad that I never did, was around the time I just finished building the new computer that I had, and it was around the same time that Breath of the Wild and the Switch came out, and I had a few computer fans left over, and I thought about cutting like a square hole into the back of the Switch and putting the fan there and plugging it in with the USB. That way it would have its own little second external fan to help keep it cool. But I never did that.
Actually, I've heard a thing where there's external fans you can buy for your Switches, and now they're actually counterproductive. Apparently, they actually increase the heat rather than decrease it, because what happens is there's a lot of them that just it's like an extra case slides onto the Switch, and then it's got the fan there. It's supposed to cool off the Switch, but because of all the extra volume of casing that's on there, it actually decreases the amount of ventilation. And so it actually is completely counterproductive. It'll actually make your
insulating it
because you're insulating it. Exactly.
And
exactly.
Another thing with that is there was a similar issue with this certain PlayStation 4 fan that people would buy to help cool off their PlayStation 4s.
Mm-hmm.
But I forgot which it was, but the fan that it like set on top of to try to boost the airflow into either sucked in air or it blew air out, and the fan that you bought for it did the opposite. So it's like trying to blow air out while the other fan's trying to blow air in, or it's trying to suck air in while the other fan's trying to suck it out. So it's like it caused it to overheat super fast because it's basically getting no airflow. But anyways,
just keep in mind, guys,
buzzkill, but anyways.
just be careful when you buy non-official third-party accessories. So the worst thing that I would say about Age of Calamity. Gee, I don't even. Hi, Daniel. Yo, you're muted. No, there you are.
No,
you're
sorry.
good.
Go on.
So earlier, whenever I was talking about my best thing, I said that it was kind of one of the worst. That was the time travel thing. So what Age of Calamity did, it gave a great, unique way that still fits with traditional Zelda mechanics, because almost every Zelda game has some weird form of time travel. So it stuck with tradition and everything, and it gave a new way for them to tell you the story that you thought you knew, but then give it like a huge twist at the very beginning to make it fresh and new. That way it's not just playing through the same memories that you had from Breath of the Wild. It's an actual new experience that you can be surprised about or wonder what's happening, because they're trying to change the future while the bad guy knows that they're trying to change the future, but at the same time he's trying to make it so that despite all the stuff that they're doing to change the future, he's trying to make it so that it happens the way that it's supposed to. And so you don't know if it is going to be new, or if it's going to be something completely different, or if it's going to be like the same major events, but then all of the little details change. So that was great, but in the end, what it did was make me wish that, as fun as it was, after the game is over, I still wanted to play through the actual prequel of Breath of the Wild. Like the original title that they put on Age of Calamity whenever it was like 100 years before Breath of the Wild. Which is still true, but not as true. Like after that demo came out, we quickly learned. But it was a great way for them to give us a new experience. But now that it's over, like that's not something that I would have thought that I wanted, was that I want a game based off of Breath of the Wild 100 years ago, but I want it to be different than it was 100. Like that's not something I would have thought of. So good on Nintendo for giving us something great that we didn't know that we necessarily wanted. But at the same time, now I want the game that they originally like titled it, where it's like
that they marketed it to tell us. You know, I have to agree with that. And there was a great article I read. I think it was on Zelda Informer about that. and how the marketing to this game steered us to really think that that's what it was going to be, and then it wasn't, right? But for me, I was really looking forward to seeing. Again, I love the game. I really did enjoy it, despite the grinding. I really enjoyed the game. I put like in 3 weeks of it, I think I put the same amount of hours as one would put into like a work week. In that time. So it's it's a great game. But I definitely felt like I was really looking forward to being able to string those games together, to go right from the story of Age of Calamity into Breath of the Wild and see how they connected and how it bridged all of that story and those story elements together. And that's not what it did, right? And so for me, it feels a bit like it was, like Rick said earlier, misleading, but in a way where I feel like there's a lot of potential to tell that story still that they didn't tap into. And sure, they went in the direction of they wanted to tell their own new story, which is fine, but it still leaves me wondering, like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna crack Creating a Champion open again and give that another read, because I feel like there's so much lore and storytelling to explore there, and I feel like it could have made, not that this game wasn't that, but it could have made for a very emotionally impactful game, and a really morose and sad story that we didn't really get to dive into. And there's still like room to have told that story and there be like a victory, as it were, because the game, that backstory does end somewhere 100 years ago, with Zelda still at least keeping Ganon at bay for 100 years. So there was still room for it, I think, but yeah, they went a different way with it. So that's all my rambling. Sorry, Jesse.
No, so earlier,
Just wanted to tack that on the end there.
Whenever I first thought of the exact topics that we were going to be doing today, I posted on Twitter asking everyone what their worst things about Age of Calamity was, and one of the things I think Rick went over was the
Yep. Looks like.
All right. So that was perfect timing again. Anyways, we talked about the bit of lag that the game has at some points. It was Daniel, not Rick, right? You were talking about how the frame rate?
Frame rate?
Yeah.
That was me.
Okay.
Right.
And then Daniel talked about his experience with it.
Yeah.
So...
Oops, I talked too much. That's the moral of the story.
No, so
Please
there was a few people that replied to it and they said that, but another thing, like there's this one person that just posted like a whole book of things that they didn't like about the game, and I was like, okay, well, I guess he wasn't a fan. But one of the things that he mentioned that started making me think about the story, because time travel is confusing, the egg, like the evil egg, is that meant to be like the good egg, but from the past? Like an egg that Ganondorf turned evil, or that Astor, was that his name? Astor,
yeah. I don't...
But,
they're not the same size, and...
Are we talking about Harbinger?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Harbinger egg.
He's supposed to be the egg that was taken away by the king when Zelda was a little girl. So when he snatched that up from her, I don't know where he put it, but supposedly it's supposed to be up in that box in Zelda's room. And this should be that egg from the timeline that we're all playing in. So the malice that followed egg from the main Breath of the Wild timeline, or Terco, jumped back with him and took over that version of him.
Oh, okay.
So that's at least how I understand it.
Is that mentioned, or like something that's like vaguely talked about?
It's not mentioned. It's not mentioned at all. It's just alluded to in the fact that a bit of Calamity Ganon's malice followed Terco into the past, and then this other one pops up that's already corrupted. So it's also possible that Astor, got a hold of it and had it already, and the malice found him, and then he was just like, here, corrupt it. That's also a possibility.
Yeah.
But it would deviate from the timeline that we all know. So, where Terraco's in the box and then goes back in time.
I accept that answer. Or it could just be like a bit of.
King of all theories goes.
I accept.
Yes.
I also accept that potential malice from 𝐼𝐴 Ganon got into the egg. Wait, but then it's like, what's the thing that he keeps using to see the future?
Shows up. He sort of just has like that, what looks like a giant ancient core.
So he's not using Terraco.
Corrupted.
Terraco. Yeah. So he's not using the egg. He's using the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
But
he kind of uses both of them
Yeah.
in certain instances. I don't know.
But it would have to be the malice from the future that goes back, because this is before any other malice, or before Calamity Ganon actually emerged. We already see the corrupted Harbinger egg.
And we see the malice like take over other like guardians where Calamity Ganon hadn't even arisen yet, or that version of him at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there are possessed guardians and stuff before Calamity gets released.
Yes, he's able, because he like, it's only a small portion, so like he can go into one guardian and then like jump out of it if he wanted to.
Yeah, because in
I think they
Breath of
showed
the
in a cutscene.
Wild's cutscene, like we physically see the malice like shooting off everywhere and going into the
Right. So
different
one of
things.
those little shots into the portal in the intro, right? So, but
yeah, because
Yes.
that would have came when Zelda
So
was
weird.
like literally right in front of Ganon. All right, I changed my answer.
Sentient goo.
This I changed my answer to this
evil
being
sentient goo.
the thing that I didn't like. Because
The power of discussion and friendship we
Yes.
found is the thing he doesn't like.
Rick, without trying, convinced me. and that guy that posted the question on Twitter earlier that got me thinking, because I was like trying to figure it out, and I'm like, no, they didn't explain
I
that.
love it though. Like these are some really good questions, and
Yeah.
they're definitely invoking a lot of thought. And like, I'm not gonna toot my own horn. My horn doesn't exist, but that's what you guys are here for.
Toot, toot. Yeah, Rick, that would be a cool video idea if you wanted to do that for your channel.
If you haven't already.
So do you have the list of stuff that didn't make it? The not so bad stuff that didn't make your number one pick?
Me?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I wasn't fortunate enough to write everything down.
Oh.
But I mean, I have a couple things off the top of my head.
Alright.
Let's see.
Right.
Another one is, this has to do with the game's performance again, is the frigging camera angles. But I'm
Yes,
sure that
it's
was
a
present.
battle. It's like I'm playing Mario 64 again.
Yeah.
That's how bad the camera is sometimes.
Yeah.
Mario 64.
I actually, my cousin-in-law, she gets motion sickness really bad, and she can't play the game and sit down for a while because the camera moves itself so much, and it's like you're fighting it. It triggers her to get sick. So
The answer, sadly, is to not target enemies. Then
See,
you can stay in control of the camera. That's the only way to battle the camera.
and the motion controls
So
also.
not do the one thing that Zelda sort of invented and made popular.
As Rick, you mentioned the motion controls too. Is I find them not too bad when like aiming with, say, Link's bow or something. But in the Divine Beasts levels, I just straight up turn them off because it is a battle. I find like I'll like aim and then it's like, and I'm like, no, I'm aiming that way. Just stop doing that. Yeah.
I had problems on both with the bow and the Divine Beast, but I just have a bad track record with it. I don't know if it's just I guess I don't know how to aim it right or whatever, but
Because
the Wii
aiming is like smooth butter with the gyro.
It is.
I could do that all day and it'd be wonderful. But then this game, it's like, like is no good.
I agree.
So Daniel compared it to Super Mario 64, and I want to mention how much of an upgrade and how quickly they had this genius idea to completely like the entire camera system that they based the Nintendo 64 controller off of, because C, yeah, it has A, B, and C, and then C up, C down, left, right.
C is for camera.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
making
like
this face because I don't think that 3D All Stars deserves any praise.
Whoa. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm really
All
angry.
right.
I think that was like the dirtiest, laziest port I've ever seen, and it was such a money grab. Anyways, let's not get into it. Let's
Yeah.
continue. Let's continue.
no,
It's
so
the camera in Mario 64. It's like so shoddy, and Zelda on the N64 does the camera control better with one button,
Yeah.
where Mario 64 had 4 buttons. Sorry, I well, the wrong amount of fingers. I don't know how to count.
no, it's like
Mario
you're trying
64
to
has
walk.
4 buttons, and it can't do it.
Oh, so like the second level that normally you go to in Super Mario 64 is the one where like there's the piranha plant and the bridge spinning around it, and you have to like walk straight across it, and it's almost impossible to get it perfectly lined up behind your back to where like if you're playing Zelda, you just press the one button and there it is.
Yeah.
But with Super Mario 64, you just have to get lucky, and it's so weird that they base the entire controller around that, because it's like they're coming up with all these ideas for prototype controllers, and then they're like, what if we had a specific button for the camera, and you can press it and move the camera around? They're like, that's genius, but let's make 4 buttons for each direction. And they're all C.
They're all C. I mean, other games got creative with how to use the C buttons in a better
Yeah.
way, like Zelda.
Yeah. But like
Yeah.
that was the thing though, is like, you know, Zelda, it makes proper use of all the buttons, and it keeps the C up for Mario to where you can look around. But it gives you uses for the other ones. But it's like in Super Mario 64, there's A and B, and you can jump and punch and kick with those 2 buttons. And then there's 4 buttons for the camera. It's like, what?
Yeah, but let's just say the Z targeting, but like just the Z button in and of itself, and
Yeah.
having the ability to lock onto things was revolutionary.
So good, yeah.
And it made it
Which
to
is
where they
why-
could only have the one joystick.
But that's why it makes it more tragic in Age of Calamity that I'm like, I almost never lock onto strong enemies because the camera is so shoddy. And also, who thought pressing in the right stick is the option? It should be the button to lock onto an enemy instead of the trigger. Who thought of this? Like,
Who thunk it?
There's
Yeah.
no
By
there's no
Nintendo.
remapping option for the controls.
Not, I mean, you'd have to go into the switches itself, the switches button map.
Oh,
Which I don't want to do that, but like Nintendo's programmed me for like 20 years to use this button to use to lock onto enemies in every game, and then now Koei Tecmo's like, you click the stick down to do.
this is like Call of Duty.
It feels so unnatural.
Yeah. So this entire side topic of Super Mario 64's controls wasn't completely pointless, because we got a bonus thing from Daniel that he didn't like.
There you go.
Yeah.
There
So,
you go.
Choobs, do you have any honorable mentions to go along with Rick's and
One
Daniel's?
after Tubes.
No, you guys already watched me
Okay,
low-key
fine.
flip out about 3D All Stars. We're fine.
All right, I have to get this out here. Just have
Yeah.
to get it off my chest. I hate Calamity Ganon's design. I just really, really don't like it. So
You mean like
spoilers,
Breath of the
guys.
Wild in general, or?
No. So again, spoilers. Final boss, Breath of the Wild, Calamity Ganon. He has been
So
incubating
new
for 100
Ganon.
years. No, not Dark Beast Ganon, Calamity Ganon, right?
Yeah.
Not Fart Gas Ganon.
No.
Actual Calamity Ganon. He emerges from his
new Ganon.
horrible cocoon, and
From Age
he
of Calamity,
is-
right?
Stop! I'm trying to explain. In Breath of the Wild, he emerges from his horrible, disgusting cocoon of incubation that he's been sitting in for 100 years, and he's this goopy mess, and he's this horrifying splinter of Sheikah technology and some kind of physical body and malice, and he's got a creepy malice hand, and he's got a cannon hand, and he's got 6 legs for some reason, and he's got a weird skull face, and he's like, "Ugh!" And you're like, oh my gosh, this guy is ugly, and I'm gonna kill him. And he's horrifying. He's actually like, the first time I saw him, I was like, holy cow, this is a Zelda boss, and he is actually scary looking. In the Age of Calamity, they're like, he's Malice, and he's a buff boy. That's it. And I hate it.
Are you talking about
I hate it.
when he possesses Aster?
He's just like, I'm Calamity Ganon. I'm like, no, what?
Also,
we had a terrifying Sheikah Malice Resident Evil boss in the last game, and now we get Buff Boy. I hate it.
I would love to see him as a mecha fighter for Ganon and Smash. Jesse, you may speak now.
Okay, so 2 things on what Daniel said. 1, I agree.
Yes, okay,
And-
good.
And 2, I don't want to make people mad from getting off topic again. No, okay, so really quick. The design for Breath of the Wild, Calamity Ganon, I feel like... has anyone ever watched the Netflix show Stranger Things?
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like the people
Yes.
that created it are huge fans of Zelda, because they have like their weird version of the Dark World in that game. And then whenever you see like the physical weird incarnation of like the main evil thing, and it's like chasing them down at the mall and stuff.
You mean the
It's-
Demogorgon?
Not the weird flower face thing. This is like a giant weird thing that chases them and stuff. They fought it at the end, but it literally looks like if you would take Calamity Ganon and then exactly how he was, but then remove like the tech stuff, just made him like the weird massive like spider scorpion monstrosity, and put it in live action, that would be the exact same look. So anytime that I think of that version of Calamity Ganon, I think of the final version of that thing from Stranger Things. And when Daniel was trying to describe
This-
his Calamity Ganon that he was talking about,
Right.
I'm glad you did that pose thing, because now we know what you were talking about.
That's what he does. He's
Yeah.
No, I looked
get-
him up and I immediately started laughing. I can't with that.
The thing is, like, I get it from the story perspective, is that instead of incubating and trying to build himself a new body, he like basically took over Astor's body and combined with the Harbinger Ganon, and I get that, like, from a story perspective, he's going to look different, but they could have made him look cooler, and it's not a cool design at all. I don't look at it and think, oh my gosh, what a terrifying, scary enemy I'm going to fight. I just think, like, oh my gosh, why they want like a manless buff boy here? And also, can I mention that I described Calamity Ganon in his like big giant form as Fart Cloud Ganon, and no one batted an eye.
I laughed. I was cracking up.
I just breezed past that. but that's the thing. Yeah, it just like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't feel like Calamity Ganon to me, because in the whole point of him in Breath of the Wild is that he's trying to. It's Ganondorf's sort of mind, spirit, whatever, evil presence, and he's trying to like build himself a new body. And even in the face, you can see like it even a little bit resembles Ganondorf, with, you know, the whole ugly face thing happening there. But yeah, it's just like they completely threw it out the window here for Age of Calamity. I just really did not like it. It felt like a huge downgrade. They could have made him cooler. They made the Blights cooler, in my opinion.
Looking at his design right here, like, you know, it all, you know, one spot. I see what they're going for with, like, he's got pig feet, and then his chest is almost like the where it like centers. I don't know. It almost resembles the same flares that come off of the Dark Beast Ganon fight.
Right.
Like, you know how it's all the
like,
blight energy is like flying kind of in a V shape, like right in the center of the chest. I see what they were going for there, but I think Game Explained made this joke, but he looks like freaking Captain Falcon.
Oh no, he does. And even the pose. Even the pose, they're like, ugh.
Yeah, I'll show you my moves.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, you're
Or
so
a Super
right.
Saiyan charging up. Like,
Yeah. Oh no. Oh gosh.
All right.
It's a
All
shame too, because I think there was
So-
potential to improve it. Like I said, the Blights were, I think, improved because they made them more different from each other and more. Even if you have to fight them too many times, I hate that. But they, I feel like, missed that opportunity to cool up Calamity Ganon. But I'm sorry, I'm rambling again.
No, you're good. At least you're on
what's
topic.
Our thing? What are we gonna talk about? Because you know what, like that takes the cake. Like that's the highlight of my day. This entire conversation about
the next
Calamity
thing.
Ganon, I'm done.
The next thing is ideas or predictions for what you either think or would like to see in DLC, or.
That's it for now, but a lot of rumors, news, and details are slowly leaking out. So please, stay subscribed and notified, and join our Discord to make sure you stay up to date on all Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 news. And you can find our Zelda podcast, the 𝐓𝐼𝐢𝐭𝐭𝐞𝐫, here on YouTube and on iTunes, where we have had many guests who have worked on the Zelda series, and have shared a lot of amazing stories about voice acting, such as Patricia Somerset voice acting as Zelda, Mike Drucker on Zelda's writing or translation team, coming up with the jokes in the game, stories behind the names of characters that he created. Please subscribe and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you. If you are a fan of our Zelda videos like this, Zelda Theories, our Zelda podcast, the 𝐓𝐼𝐢𝐭𝐴𝐽 on iTunes, we would all really appreciate your support at patreon.com/GameOverJesse. That and buying our t-shirts will get you and your YouTube or Twitch a shout out every week on our 𝐓𝐼𝐢𝐭𝐴𝐽. And if you send in a photo of yourself in our Game Over Jesse or 𝐓𝐼𝐢𝐭𝐴𝐽 t-shirt, we can use it for promotion at the end of some of our videos.